These competitors are squaring off looking to outmatch each other.
It's going to be a tall task for one of these two.
Here we go, fellas. I've been looking forward to this one for quite some time.
Taking out the arm, great strategy. Big time slam. Vicious.
This might be it. Oh, my. Definitely an electric feeling to this venue tonight.
Look at them, locked inside that cage like a couple of rabid animals.
There's a setup. From behind, boom, natural selection. Oh, what incredible power.
Wow, what a vertical suplex.
Oh, nasty impact.
What a boot.
Uh-oh.
Watch out.
Nailed it.
We talk about how important stipulations are in a steel cage match. If superstars sign a contract where the only way to win is escape the cage and have both your feet touch the floor, the competitors must have a plan. Especially since you have to be comfortable trying to escape through the cage door as you do climbing over the top of the cage and vice versa.
Ooh! Hammerlock applied. Oh, no, no. Uh-oh. It's going to break an arm.
Just wearing down the opponent. Corey, you touched on something moments ago that's so important for the combatants in a steel cage match to remember. A superstar must be able to think offensively to figure out how they're going to escape the cage. They must think defensively at the same time so they can prevent their opponent from getting out of the cage first and winning the match.
Well, a superstar must become comfortable with escaping the cage by both exiting the cage door and by climbing over the top of the cage. They must also be aware of their attributes and what's best for them. Let's just say if you're a giant like The Big Show, The Undertaker, Kane, or even Braun Strowman, it's preferred to exit through the cage door.
Oh, man.
That's right.
Oh, and he reverses it. Boom, what impact. continuing to punish them. This is what makes him one of the best in the business. That hurt. This capacity crowd starting to sense the end is near, and I don't disagree.
I think this one's over.
Swinging gut buster. Nasty. He's in full control now. Oh, a shin breaker.
Gonna be hard to walk after that.
Big move coming. Oh, my goodness, this hurts. Oh! Caught off guard.
The best way to describe combatants clashing inside a steel cage is its battle of attrition. Sometimes a superstar is left with no choice but to fight fire with fire and do whatever they need to do in order to win the match. And sometimes it comes down to a superstar doing whatever they need to do in order to survive.
Beautiful technique.
Byron, you touched on this earlier, but it's so important for a superstar to accept that there's nowhere to run and nowhere to hide in a steel cage match. That the conflict will be resolved within the 15-foot-high steel walls that surround the ring. And that losing a cage match can mean much more than a mark in the loss column. For some, it has meant the end of their career.
It's difficult to describe the damage that can be done to a superstar who competes in a steel cage match. We see the physical harm, but we don't see the psychological effects from being inside the cage. Make no mistake about it, Michael. The steel cage truly represents survival of the fittest.
The steel cage is a massive enclosure that stands 15 feet in height. For almost 35 years, a select group of high flyers have taken their aerial assaults to greater heights. And when I say that, I mean superstars climb to the top of the steel cage, the real high-rent district, and dive off onto their opponent. And that all started with one man in October of 1983, Jimmy Superfly Snuka.
To your point earlier, Byron, we've definitely seen some unbelievable attacks be launched from the top of the steel cage. And you mentioned the most iconic, the steel cage match for the Intercontinental Championship that saw Jimmy Superfly Snuka clash against bitter rival, the magnificent Morocco.
There's no denying that Superfly set the bar. You look over the years to people like Jeff and Matt Hardy, Eddie Guerrero, Kurt Angle, and Chris Jericho. They continued to push the envelope and executed unbelievable attacks from the top of the cage. And watch Rikishi take flight off the top of the steel cage. Wow, there's a certain feeling that comes over the combatants in the steel cage match once they hear the door close and see the official lock it. A superstar must know that their body is going to be thrown against the steel, that their face will most likely be raked across the cage, and that anything is legal in this environment.
We spoke about this earlier, Corey. It's crucial for a WWE superstar to fully understand the gravity of the situation they're in when they battle inside a 15-foot-high steel cage. An individual must be ready to endure pure brutality and be prepared for the fight of their life. No one leaves a steel cage match without scars.
Corey, you said something of value for once, in that anything is legal inside the steel cage. To that point, something else we've seen over the years is interference. Whether it's The Undertaker coming up through the ring or John Cena getting bashed in the head with the cage door from the outside, it's all legal in the cage.
The rivalry between Ultimate Warrior and Ravishing Rick Rude began during the Super Pose Down of the 1989 Royal Rumble. Then it progressed to where both superstars battled over the Intercontinental Championship. At SummerSlam 90, the rivals met inside a 15-foot-high steel cage for the WWE Championship. Victory could be achieved by pinfall or escape from the cage.
Corey, the WWE Championship match between the Ultimate Warrior and Ravishing Rick Rude was the second half of the double main event at 1990 SummerSlam. The rivalry between the Warrior and the Ravishing One was so heated that no one knew what to expect once the two men were able to battle inside a steel cage, which at the time was the most grueling match in all of WWE.
The Ultimate Warrior dominated early on with his incredible strength. Rick Rude turned the tables and used the steel surroundings to his advantage. At one point, Rude dove from the top of the cage onto the Warrior. But after the Warrior's signature Gorilla Press Slam, the Ultimate One climbed over the cage and retained his WWE Championship.
Continuing to punish them.
The WWE Universe has seen the evolution of the steel cage in the enclosure known today as Hell in a Cell. The first time an enclosed cage was seen was in October of 1983 in the last Battle of Atlanta. The enclosed cage was seen a few years later in the War Games match from the NWA. There were even cages stacked on top of each other like WCW's Tower of Doom.
All right, when we talk about the progression of steel cage matches and the type of structures that have been spawned from them, I need to point out that some cages have been electrified. One was made from bamboo in the form of a Punjabi prison match. And, of course, the Elimination Chamber with glass pods and steel doors.
And today we have the Asylum match, where weapons are on top of the cage. Just goes to show you that times may change, but the objective to destroy an opponent remains the same. There's still no better way to settle a score than to do battle with your adversary inside a steel cage. According to historians, the twisted metal that we see as part of steel cages today dates back 80 years. To settle a dispute between competitors Jack Bloomfield and Count Pietro Rossi, the two met inside a ring surrounded by chicken wire. At first, these types of matches were referred to as fence matches.
Corey, you gave us an impressive history of the origins of the steel cage match. I'd like to point out to our viewers that from the 1960s through the mid-1980s, chain link fences were used to enclose the ring for WWE steel cage matches. A superstar could win by pinfall, submission, or by exiting the cage through the cage door or climbing over the top of the cage.
We should also point out, Michael, that the way to win a steel cage match can vary by match depending on what was agreed to before contracts to compete in the match were signed. Talking about history, at WrestleMania 2, WWE unveiled the redesigned steel cage with solid steel blue bars before returning to chain link mesh in the late 1990s.
Man, this has been a great matchup.
Jam your leg in a bad way.
He might have it.
Oh, the human torture rack.
You can see the wear and tear that this fight has taken out of these men. Not so fast. And
You gotta believe this one's over. That's what he was looking for, Michael. The pinfall and the victory.